All right. So good morning and welcome to another Forge Fireside. Forge Fireside is a monthly series where I meet with entrepreneurs, innovators, and founders, and sometimes investors to talk about the journey that they've taken from their early days to where they are now. Today's a very special episode where we're going to talk about a new program called Native Forge. And before I introduce our guest, I want to just explain for those of you who might not be familiar with FORGE, it stands for Finding Opportunities and Resources to Grow Entrepreneurs. We are the entrepreneurial mindset unit of the university. And we really work to try to cultivate that thinking, the problem solving and analysis in all students, whether they're in high school, community college, university, and do the same thing in the communities where the university operates. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Rafael Tapia. Now, Rafael wears a couple hats here today. I'll let him talk a bit about his, we'll call it the day job. And I'll tell you really quickly about Rafael is also one of Forge's mentors in residence. What that means is that we have a Forge Ahead program for advanced startups. It's a 12-month resident accelerator. Those founders, CEOs, and teams get to work with our team of dedicated mentors in residence and often meet bi-weekly with a rotating group of them. This gives them exposure to a lot of different thinking and mindsets. And at the same time, I think it helps us to build a stronger mentoring pool for our ecosystem, for our community, for the state and the region. But Rafael, welcome to today's Forge Fireside.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Could you tell us a little bit about, we'll get to your current role, but tell us a bit about your educational background. What did you study and where?
Well, I started out at Pima College here in Tucson. I was going to be a social service worker. And so I started studying, and as I got into that business of providing services, I realized there was a gap in the level of administration. Best practices seemed to be missing from that profession. So ironically, I ended up getting into business, and I ended up eventually graduating from Eller College here at the University of Arizona. So I am a proud alumni of the University of Arizona, Eller College.
MBA, if I remember?
Yes, I have an MBA.
Outstanding. Two Eller alums talking to each other. So social services you were interested in? How did that go when you graduated?
Well, you know, as a natural helper, I was able to thrive without having a formal degree in that space. So I was elevated to the level of director of treatment centers, outpatient programs, and mainly because the success that I had achieved in delivering those services, primarily to Native diverse communities. And so at the Pascua Yaqui Tribe, I ended up in the role for a short period of time as a social services director. So a lot of the business knowledge I gained was applicable to the work I was doing, in really the innovation, the development. It's a business. And so there was an alignment there between what I was doing in social work and what I learned in the business world. I still carry that knowledge with me today in my current role. I believe I'm still doing social work to an extent in the roles that I have, because it's about lifting people and communities. So that's kind of how I define the work that I do in whatever role I have.
So you mentioned Pascua Yaqui. Can you tell me a little bit about your tribal background? What is your story?
Well, born here in Southern Arizona, small village. And I'm proud to say that the roots of the movement to establish the reservation that is now called the Pascua Yaqui Tribe, in our community, it's known as New Pascua. So because it came out of the work that residents in Old Pascua did to establish federal recognition. So Old Pascua is here off of Grant and I-10, the village I grew up in. And then once the reservation was established, it became known as New Pascua. And the legal title is Pascua Yaqui Tribe under the federal recognition language and congressional stamp that was put on there. So for many years, I've obviously had ties to the community, including ties to our communities as far away as Scottsdale, because we have a Yaqui community in Scottsdale, near Tempe, town of Guadalupe, Pinal County, South Tucson. We have a small village there in South Tucson.
So, all right, you graduated with your MBA from Eller. You have this, rich history, cultural history in the region. What were your thoughts in terms of giving back or thinking about the community as a whole?
Well, our cultural values around community building, around being a member, is that you give back to your community wherever you are. And so that value has stayed with me. And so I've brought it into the jobs that I've worked in even in leadership positions. Those roles and responsibility are sometimes hierarchical, which sometimes contradict our way of leading. A leader is not because they have power and control, it's because they engage in fulfilling the wishes of the people. So we call that servant leadership. So in that role, there's a very important part of giving back to the community. So it's not just, okay, well, I'm going to earn the big salary, I'm going to have the big title, and that's what it's about. So there is a cultural value to the things that we do. And so I'm really excited about the positions and the opportunities that I've had, including the work that I'm doing for Native Forge, to be able to apply that.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a bit about your current role, where you're at, what you do, and the region that you now serve.
So the day job that I have is with an organization called Partnership with Native Americans. They're a 30-plus-year-old organization, nonprofit, 501c3. And our primary footprint is 9 states, Northern, Plains, and Southwest region. So South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Montana. Southwest, we have a primary footprint in Arizona, New Mexico, and then border communities, tribal communities, California, Utah, and Colorado. So I travel back and forth between Rapid City, South Dakota, where I have an office there, and Phoenix, Arizona, where we have our central locations where we serve the communities that we work with, tribal, reservation communities, some of the most remote. And so the work and what we invest in is improving quality of life. And these are aligned with what the tribal nations that we work with have already identified as priorities. We do that because we've seen so many times where external to communities programs and resources are put together, and then it's like, okay, this is what you need, this is what's going to fix you, this is what's going to help you. And those solutions, those abilities, those talents, energy to get things done is already there. Sometimes it's a lack of resources. So that's what we bring to the table. And although we'd like to do more in the community, we know that we're limited as an organization. So we partner with other organizations that are doing similar work with the community that focus on assets versus deficits, because our strategy is to look at what are the strengths in the community, how can we build off of those. So the idea is that we get further down the road by focusing on the strength and trying to address the needs and the issues, because so much money has been put into that we end up just sometimes not ever finding a way out. And so the strengths is what we focus on, and we partner with organizations and community that are already doing the work. They're the bread and butter for what we do. We don't take no credit. They're already doing the work. We just are a partner and a resource.
Okay. Well, I'd like to introduce my partner in this. Levi Esqueda is the Senior Vice President for Native American Advancement and Tribal Engagement. Wow, that's a mouthful, huh? We'll call it Nate from here forward. Do we have his microphone working? Are we good? Yeah. All right. So welcome, Levi. Thank you.
Man, big shoes to fill after Rafael going.
So Levi and I both are the PIs on Native Forge. It is a brand new program that is supported by the EDA's University Center. I know you have a lot of experience with that particular program, Levi. Could you give kind of a quick overview of what it is and what you hope to accomplish with this?
Yeah, so really thrilled we were able to procure an EDA grant in the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development.
Administration.
Okay, sorry, I use acronyms all the time. We were really fortunate that we procured the University Center. So Arizona, they only give one University Center per state in our case, and we procured it. And our goal is, how do we create entrepreneurship? How do we build the tribal economies? So I'm really pleased for Forge. We actually had representatives from another tribe come in. They really liked what they saw. So we packaged our proposal on actually building entrepreneurship and taking the Forge model. And so we're thrilled with the opportunity, because we want to grow tribal economies. And if you go to most tribes, most of their tribal employment is government, federal, state, tribal, right? Maybe tribal enterprises. And we know to really have a strong economy when you have small businesses in place, right? And that's our goal, is to make this happen.
Outstanding. So, just to kind of explain, part of what we want to try to do with Native Forge is take different parts of our program. For example, we have the Venturing 101 curriculum. This takes an aspiring entrepreneur through the lean canvas components, understanding their own tolerance for risk and failure, as well as some of the principles of things like financial literacy, intellectual property, and business formation. Really a lot of the key questions that I think most aspiring entrepreneurs want to learn. And then we couple it with mentorship from people like Rafael to be able to go out and actually meet in person with those entrepreneurs. Are either of you aware of a similar program like this anywhere in the country?
I'm not aware of the hands-on approach that we're really going to do. And I think one of the things that Rafael said, that having Rafael mentor, right, and residents, and him having an understanding of Yaqui culture and tradition, but also basic understanding of other tribes. And I think that's probably the key, because there's some businesses that you might see as tremendous opportunities within a tribal community, but they're really not a business that's going to work, because there's already a responsibility within that community for someone to do that without paying others. And I think as we understand that, and as Rafael understands that, we can really promote those businesses to be successful, but the ones that will really actually work within this tribal community. So we're unique in that way, but that's just how we roll, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, as Lee was telling us, trying to think about the different services that are offered. I wasn't able to identify an offering like Native Forge. It's very specific. It's resource rich. And I think not just, that we're going to be handing out money, but ability to connect with resources, knowledge, and then the capacity that the University of Arizona has with the tribal programs that are being launched. I have not seen anything like that.
And just to build on it, one of the things in my position, I report to the president, and every time I meet with the president, how do we get our resources out to the tribe? This is getting our resources out to the tribe, really specific on entrepreneurship and small businesses. Right? But just because we're looking at those doesn't mean that there's other opportunities within the tribe to grow other types, whether it's other big businesses. This really sets up the foundation to build that. And it's truly getting our tribe.
Yeah. I think, one other component that I want to mention is that in addition to Rafael meeting routinely with the program participants, they also then get folded into our bi-weekly mentoring sessions with all of our folks, which means that these 5 tribal entrepreneurs are going to get exposed to collectively over 200 years of industry experience. Many of them have gone and raised venture funds or started companies and done much of this. I think it's going to be an incredible resource to them. We get off by having our conference in Tucson on November 2nd. We'll Native Forge at the Forge at Roy Place downtown. It'll be an all-day session, and that will be both with our program participants as well as with a lot of guests who will be coming through to talk about how to connect to the community. Best part from my point of view is that the whole day then feeds into Desert Angels meeting that evening, where all of those entrepreneurs and others will get to network with angel investors who are very active in startups, and stick around for the following day for idea funding and the RAIN conference, both of which have to do with pitching your idea, pitching your business, pretty significant prize money being awarded, lots of very active investors. So by the end of 2 days, the Native Forge participants will have been exposed to kind of a range from the beginnings of entrepreneurship all the way through to success and pitching. So I think share who that's going to be. Well,
I'm honored to introduce representatives from the San Carlos, and they were selected. They provided a tremendous application that was reviewed by the committee and with so Nathan Nash, who is the president and CEO of the Economic Development.
That's right.
Hello, Nathan Nash. Yeah.
did you turn on your microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just so everyone knows, Nathan makes things happen at San Carlos. Let's leave it at that, right? No pressure.
Well, I'm excited to have Nathan with us. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate you coming down,
A pleasure. Thank you.
making the drive and joining us.
So Nathan, welcome. I'm really interested in your perspective on this. You know, what did you see both in the call for applications, and what are your hopes for the tribe from this program?
We've had kind of similar, but there was nothing that really encompasses the full aspect of business and how it pertains specifically to Native Americans. We have a pretty diverse group of participants right now, and even a few that are coming to with a formed a business that really needs some polishing to realize their goals. And I think this is the best situation we've actually come into that'll help us achieve these and actually have viable products into the market, not only on a tribe side, but on a state, national level.
And what are some of, maybe you should talk a little bit about who was selected, who you guys have nominated as entrepreneurs to participate, and you know what is the nature, like how far along are they, and what do you see them as hoping for?
That's great. We have a pretty broad range. We go from field management. I think it's called they're changing the name around, but it's some kind of a party and staging company. So and event hosting and also staging for businesses. And then down to a convenience store, and then up to an actual holding company that has restaurants and independent grocers and property management already under their belt. So there's a broad range of participants, and the level of work that's needed ranges greatly from just understanding financials to understanding how to market a new idea. It's going to be a challenge, and I like the way we're all together to fully get all the information needed and help them.
Do you have any sense, how long have these companies been in existence? Are some new and some been around a while? Are they all established?
Yeah, two are startups. They were literally starting to get them their EIN numbers and the other legal documents for their businesses. The other's been around for a year, and the other two are relatively mature at almost 4 years. So it's a very broad range.
So I know you were out here 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? And one of the participants for the meeting, can you talk a little about their businesses? Because they actually were able to meet with the president when they were here. and actually make it a little bit their elevator pitch. I thought it was really great.
Oh, yeah, they were Apache Fuels. They handle a lot of management of land, property. They've helped a lot with cleaning up roadways, showcasing businesses, and also providing monthly work that's around the area for the government and private businesses. And they're doing very well right now.
And they're relatively young too, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing. They don't mind working in the 110-degree heat and getting a lot of those government contracts that we want to push them towards. There's a lot of work out there.
Outstanding. Rafael, I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are going into this, and working with them, and what your experience has been, in situations like this.
I've had the privilege of working for many years with San Carlos Patsy. In fact, Chairman Rambler and I, well, and Levi at some point, we were involved in helping to develop the workforce system in tribal communities. And Chairman Rambler was one of the representatives. And so being able to circle back, and it's been on the work that I've done out in the community. So then being able to, that's very near and dear to me. I own a couple small businesses myself, and I know how important they are in our community. So being able to then start this work with Nathan and Cody and the leadership there has been, a really, it's a personal matter for me as well. It's not just professional. So I have the honor of working with communities in a way that, to your earlier question, how to give back. I know my six-figure salary here is, a driver, but it's that other part of me that really connects with the work. And then yesterday we had time to really sit down and bend each other's ear. It was a mutual for about 3 hours, getting excited about this work. I mean, what they're doing for the citizens and the community in building a whole new, it's a whole new arena here that Nathan and his office is building out here. So to be a part of that for me is very exciting, and to have that opportunity to do that with FORGE and the work they're doing over here. Can't say enough about how much I look forward to what's to come.
I remember one of the very first conversations that you and I had, we talked a little bit about what would be some of the things, how would we define success? What if we could look back on this a few years from now? And I seem to recall access to capital being a really high on your list.
And Nathan, Levi, you can speak to this. Access to capital in our communities is almost non-existent. Unless it comes to the government, it's not available to our citizens, even to get a loan to buy a car. I mean, some of our citizens in order to get a loan, we're paying 36% interest. I mean, think about that. So to get a loan to establish a business, first of all, we don't have a legacy of wealth in our communities. So when we try to go out to the banks, we don't have the opportunity to leverage our homes, because that's one of the things we can do out here, right? It collateralizes your request. We have a different land tenure system on the reservation that really prevents that from happening. So folks have to scrape together over time what they can to then launch their businesses. So we have a need to be able to connect with resources that others have available to them, and that's the so I know Nathan can share with us at the some of these interactions, what they're doing to shore that up, because there's new instruments coming into play where we're having to make sure those are in place to be able to create that resource. But access to capital is a huge one, and when I heard and saw and read what FORGE has access to, I got really excited about that.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on that. Even currently, trying to build EMS stations, we're running into trouble with trying to access capital because of the, it's either you have to go through federal programs like USDA loans, rural community grants that will help us build these things. But if we want to build them in a timely fashion, we have to utilize a lot of different funding sources in order to get it completed. And there's a lot of nuances that banks don't understand. So like we're working with Capital One and trying to get them to understand how land works on the reservation and how we don't have, you can't just put a number on the land. We have to really try to figure out what's comparable around so we can get an idea of what the value is that we're placing on the land. So there's things that are done completely off the reservation that we are starting in the infancy to try to get a hold of. And when I took the position in 2018, I was told to diversify from gaming and government. Those are our two largest employers. So we had to start looking at ways that we can leverage our assets. 1.8 million acres. We have a lot of water. We're in a good location. So how do we use that to build an economy? And that's how we're starting, and we're starting to push forward with those type of ideas. And we have a conduit to capital, which is something great because it's very hard, even just to get a building built to house businesses. We'd have to go through like incubator programs or other federal programs to be able to have businesses start. But once they make that leap to the next level, they're gonna have to try to find millions on their own to build out their own business, and it's just not there.
Well, you said something really important, Nathan, which is, well, one, I can certainly vouch that banks rarely understand startups, no matter where they're coming from. This is a longstanding challenge of every entrepreneur. But I think also a really core value of the Native Forge program is that we want the entrepreneurs that you've identified to become those experts within the community that can then help assess what is best. I remember talking with tribal leadership, and they said, look, we don't want to do gaming, period. You know, but everybody always wants to tell you, well, why don't you go do gaming? And, you know, it's like a one size fits all, but it doesn't actually work in every situation. And you were talking about the fact that, you know, you were given that direction to move away from it, which is great. That means that, you know, tribal leadership has recognized that there are better things for you, or other things, I should say, for you to be able to pursue and diversify. And hopefully with these entrepreneurs in the program, they'll help.
We had a leakage study done in 2016. It's rather old, but it still showed so much money leaving the reservation. We had a large payroll, especially from the federal government and the tribe. And we lost 60 to 70% of that going to off reservation. So we can't sustain the economy when we don't have anything spent here or there on the reservation. And that's a problem we're trying to fix. And that was really the need for diversifying our economy, to be able to have our own stores, our own convenience stores, our own restaurants and industry. So we'd have other actual well-paying jobs that we can compete with, like the mines and the hospitals, and we could have a proper economy built.
Yeah, that's great. We are coming close on time. I want to check really quick. Are there any questions online?
We don't have any questions on it right now that I never thought.
All right, thank you. Any kind of closing thoughts, Levi? I'll let you kick us off.
I think the one thing I want to say when you talk about, you know, how would this look successful? I think my goal is to really have the tribal nations build business-friendly models in place, right? To really support the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, but then to allow big businesses to. And I think that's one of my drives, is to see that happen. And if we can assist in that and building business-friendly models, you know, helping out the tribes, that's what I'm all about. And that's one of the reasons why I think this Native Forge, I think, is a precursor to that happening.
Well, I think yesterday's conversation really gave some insight on some of the vision that's been in place there at San Carlos Apache as part of Nathan's mandate. But when he described that, it was, you know, it was like a roadmap that was forming, and some of that spoke to that diversity in the economy that Nathan's striving for. And so being able to move the needle from that 65 to 70% leakage down, even if we were to move it 10%, I think those are some of the things that we need to look for as we strive towards impacting the economy there through the diversification you're speaking to.
Yeah, even dropping 10% down to 50 will add millions into the economy, and that'll help boost everything from housing to jobs, taxes to help build more things.
So my final comment on that is that really we need this first step in partnering and collaborating in this way. I saw that is one of the things that Nathan described in this roadmap, that leads towards that success. Because we have to take the first steps, and having this partnership in this way, I think it's a tremendous way to bring that about. Where we go and how we get there, it's going to be that journey we take together. So I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic. And I'm absolutely excited. I do want to, underscore the fact we have just started this, right? Like, I don't want to start doing the celebration dance just because, hey, we got it off the ground. But I am absolutely encouraged by the fact that the response, the reaction from the tribes that applied, that have all actually said, we know we weren't selected, we still want to come. We still want to be a part of this. That, to me, reinforces that maybe we really are working on the right thing, and that we can build that stronger community, that business creation, and ultimately that economic development for all of our tribes across the state. So with that, I thank you all for attending the fireside, and thank you, Nathan, Levi, Rafael. Thank you, appreciate it. Bye-bye.